Judge number 36 on the calendar, the matter of Cooper versus Campbell. All parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Well, this case presents a serious problem that a lot of working people have, especially working moms, who have to find appropriate daycare for their children. According to this complaint, Ms. Campbell, you hired the plaintiff to take care of your children while you were working.
That's correct.
How long did she care for your children?
I believe a little over 2 years. I'm not exactly sure.
And how many children did she care for?
She cared for 2 of my children. I have only 2 children.
How old are they? Your son, who's 5.
My son is 5, and my daughter, who's here today as a witness, she is 7.
And there came a time when you became dissatisfied with her service. According to your answer, terminated the service. But according to your complaint, she did not pay you for the last month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which was $450.
Correct.
So, let me hear what happened.
I provided a service to Mrs. Campbell for the month of April. There had been problems previously for months with her son having uncontrollable bowel movements, and I had suggested several times on occasion for her to have him evaluated, and she disregarded that.
Oh, that's not true.
Just a second.
And you know it.
According to these papers, Ms. Cooper, you were aware of the fact that her son had some serious problems.
Right.
What kind of problems does he have?
My son is learning disabled. We believe he has ADHD, and also he's been diagnosed with stress-related seizure disorder.
And according to your papers, he did have a couple of grand mal seizures.
He's had 2 grand mal seizures. The first occurred the first day of preschool. The second occurred in Carrie Cooper's residence.
And the ADHD is attention deficit
Hyperactivity
attention
deficit.
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Correct.
And you were aware of that he had
yes.
these problems. So he soiled himself while in your care.
Right.
Twice.
Twice? No, this has been going on. It was
No,
like
it was the 3rd time. It was the 3rd time.
it was more than 3 occasions.
No, it wasn't.
Don't interrupt.
Okay.
So what happened on the day that precipitated
This
this
was at
lawsuit?
3 p.m., April 30th. I proceeded to call Kathy at her place of employment.
At 3 o'clock, the little boy soiled himself.
Right.
And you called her at her job.
Yes.
What
and
time
asked
does she usually come to pick up the children?
5 o'clock.
Okay.
So I proceeded to ask her if she could make arrangements for somebody to come pick him up.
No, you didn't.
Shh, shh. Listen, I'm going to get to you in a second.
I called her, notified her of the problem, asked if somebody could come pick him up. I didn't have another diaper to change him or a change of clothes. She said he would have to stay
Campbell,
like that.
you're not helping yourself.
Okay.
Okay?
He would have to stay like that until she got there. At which time, I put him in the hallway because I have tile there. I have carpet everywhere else. I put him in the hallway to wait for his mother.
How did you put him in the hallway?
I just had him sit on the floor in the hallway.
Well, describe this place to me.
Okay, my front door, then the hallway, then you go into my living room. The hallway is all tile. And I had him sit there instead of the carpet so my carpet wouldn't get soiled.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I do. I have 1 child.
Boy or a girl?
Girl.
How old?
5.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Why didn't you take off those soiled clothes from the little boy? And at least for the 2 hours that he was waiting, why didn't you put on a pair of your daughter's overalls, something?
I just did well, I called her and asked her to come get him. I did what she told me to do.
No, Miss Cooper, I'm talking about humanity. I'm not talking about what she told you to do. She called her at work and you said somebody has to come and get him. Well, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not easy on a moment's notice to get somebody to come over and pick up the boy. These were children that you had watched for 2 years. You have a child of similar age, who I'm sure has a pair of sweatpants, because girls always have sweatpants, just like boys do. Take off the diaper or the pull-ups that he was wearing. I don't know, burn them, do whatever you want to do with them. And in the meantime, until she gets there, put something of your daughter's on. Why couldn't you do that? Instead of putting him out in a hallway.
Since I started watching the kids, he was potty trained. I never agreed on changing diapers. She knew of the problem. She knew that I wasn't going to do that. That's why every time it happened, I called her at work, and either her husband or herself would come pick him up.
What do you mean you never agreed? Children have accidents.
I understand that.
And you mean if a child has an accident, you don't take care of that?
Yes, I do.
Well, then so what was the problem here? If you wanted to terminate this and say, listen, after today, I'm not taking care of him anymore, I could understand that. My problem, Ms. Cooper, is it's very traumatic for a child. I know I've had children, and it's very traumatic for a child to be left that way, humiliated in a hallway alone. A 5-year-old has the cognitive ability to understand what you're doing. It seems to me there's a certain lack of humanity in not taking care of the problem and then saying, at the end of the day, Miss Campbell, I can't, I won't, I don't want to take care of your children anymore because this is a problem that I don't want to have to deal with.
I had told her that 2 weeks prior to that.
But still, you continue to take care of the children, right?
Right.
But you can say, I'm not going to do it anymore without taking it out on the child. The child is the one who's traumatized. She may feel very badly about her son, but it's the child himself who's left with that feeling, that terrible moment of being in a hallway because he soiled himself, especially when he has the kinds of problems that this little boy has. Who's wrong? All right, Miss Campbell, I see you're real upset.
I want to tell you, first of all, she handed me his clothes in a clean bag. The difference between the other 2 incidents and this, he was wearing a pull-up. All she had to do was take off the pull-up and clean him up, put his clean clothes back on him. She's lying. Those clothes were in a bag. My daughter's here. She knows the story. When I walked up, he was standing by the front door. The neighborhood children had gathered, and they were laughing at my son. I will never in my life forget the look on his face.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My son is going into therapy June 19th for what she did to him, okay? It wasn't a safe environment at all.
And later today,
you owe me my money. Or you gotta pay me.
Well, I'm not gonna pay you because you still owe me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Bennett Campbell says her babysitter, Carrie Cooper, neglected her 5-year-old son, and so she refuses to pay the fee.
He was standing in the hallway like she said, but you could see him. I could see him in the corner with his head down. When he came out to me, his pull-up had been on him for 2 hours. It was sagging. He had only a t-shirt on. She had just bagged up his clean clothes because she simply did not want to deal with the situation.
Those weren't clean clothes.
They were clean clothes.
Sir.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I had to say something.
Well, then you step up here. You want to come up here and say something? I'll hear you.
They were not. They were soiled clothes from days before.
Miss Campbell, why don't you say anything?
She doesn't bring diapers. She had bring clothes before, but they had been soiled in prior. That's why they were in a plastic bag.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Tom.
Tom what?
DeLeo.
Mr. DeLeo. You were home when this happened?
Yes.
You have children, sir?
Yeah, her daughter's my daughter.
You know how protective people are of their children?
Yes, I do.
Miss Campbell is protective of her child. You are particularly protective of a child who has a disability.
We were protective of her kids, too.
No, Mr. DeLeo. You're not protective of a child, sir, if you don't take care of that child.
Well, it's not
the same way that you would take care of your own child, and you would not leave your daughter in that situation. And if you would not leave your daughter in that situation, you don't leave a child entrusted to your care in that situation.
I want to say, when she made that phone call to me, if I had known that my son was going to go through this, you better believe I would have picked him up. I never intended for this to happen to him.
Had you always paid her on time?
Yes, yes, ma'am, I did.
And you paid her at the end of the month?
Yes.
For the preceding month?
Correct.
Now, you know that she took care of, by the way, did you report this incident?
Yes, I have. I filed a police report, which I have a copy. Tom DeLeo is also involved. I want to explain to you this. When my children got into the car, both of them at the same time told me, Mommy, Tom hit Josh in the head. Tom hit Josh in the head. Then Josh told me, no, you know what? Jenna's going to tell you. Then Josh told me his feet hurt, and that's when I asked him, were you in the corner all this time? And Josh said yes. I have filed reports with community care licensing. I have filed a police report. I have filed a police report. Child abuse registry is currently investigating that. Anaheim Police is awaiting their report.
Okay, well, that's a good idea.
Here for
What's your name?
Jenna. Jenna.
Jenna? Is your name Jenna? I have a little granddaughter whose name is Jenna. She's 2.5. Jenna, would you like to come up here and talk to me for a minute?
Watch your step. See you, Jenna.
Hi.
Hi.
Jenna, do you remember that day when your brother had a problem? Yes? Well, would you tell me what happened? You look at me and tell me.
Well, I came home. I came to my babysitter's house. She picked me up from the bus stop, and then we had to do my homework, me and my friend, and then we ate our snack, and then we played the monkey game, and then it was time for Joshua to get up, and then
He had been sleeping?
Yeah. And he did an accident. And
While in his pants while he was sleeping? Okay, so what happened then?
And then Carrie put him in the corner for 2 hours, and then he told me that...
Who's Carrie?
She.
She. That's Carrie? She put him in the corner?
And then he told me that Tom hit him in the head because he hit Ashley on accident.
Oh, so that Tom hitting him on the head had to do with an argument that their little girl was having with your brother. So he said he hit him on the head because he hit Ashley. Joshua hit Ashley. I see. It didn't have anything to do with him soiling his pants that he got hit in the head, right? Is that right? Good. Anything else you want to tell me? Has it always been okay at this babysitter's for you? Up until this happened? She's a pretty nice babysitter?
Yeah.
She takes care of you okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You never had any complaints before, did you? No? You have a new babysitter now? You like the new babysitter? Want to go back to your seat? Okay. Okay, so at least we found out about this hitting on the head. It didn't really have anything to do with
No,
this
but how
incident.
appropriate is it to hit a child with stress-related
Kathy,
seizure
I
disorder
never
in the
hit
head?
Josh in the
Okay,
head.
listen.
No way.
Listen,
That's what my children told me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have nightmares over what my Joshua went through for 2.5 hours. You're pathetic and you make me sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Bennett Campbell says her babysitter, Carrie Cooper, neglected her 5-year-old son, and so she refuses to pay the fee.
This was an unfortunate incident.
Extremely.
I absolutely agree with you. But it appears from what your daughter has said, and even what you have said to me previously, that this was a babysitter that you had used for 2 years and who had taken good care of your kids. I don't think you would have left your children with her if she didn't. I find, Miss Cooper, that your behavior on that day was really inexcusable. The issue is, does that mean that you don't have to pay her for the whole month? And you do, because that was your arrangement. You have to pay her for the month that she watched your children. I certainly think that you did the appropriate thing by issuing the reports that you did, because I think that her actions were callous in what you did with your boy. She exercised very poor judgment. I'm telling you that you exercised very poor judgment. But this is a court of law. You had a contract. Your contract provided that you were supposed to be paid $450 for watching these children. You would watch them for an entire month prior to this incident. So the judgment in this case is simple. It's for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope you're proud of what you did to my son.
Step out the back door to your right, please.
I think you're pathetic, and I think you should not be watching children, and I think you better take some parenting classes, and you need to find
You
some
need
compassion.
parenting classes.
Oh, honey, I'm in parenting classes to deal with the problems my son has
Your
because
son
of you.
had problems before.
That's correct,
me.
and you knew about it. You knew.
Parties on Richardson versus Amos. Step forward, please.
29-year-old dancer Denise Richardson says she loaned her brother-in-law, Lavasta Amos, $95 to rent a truck, and he never paid her back.
All right, Miss Richardson, you say that Mr. Amos owes you $95. You want to tell me how that came about, please?
I don't know about it in March. My niece called her father asking me to help.
Your niece?
My niece.
That's
My
his
sister.
daughter?
My sister's daughter, yes.
Okay, this is the father.
Yes.
Your niece called you and said...
Asked me if I could rent a writer truck for them to move. So it was
For
just
whom?
for her father and her.
Okay.
And it was just for me to put it on my credit card for them to just have a deposit, you know, to hold a truck, and then they were supposed to make the payment.
They were supposed to pay in cash.
They were supposed to pay in cash, yes, ma'am.
So you said?
No problem. I went down. I had to sign, show my ID. He wasn't present, but his wife, Tammy, was. I said, are you sure you're going to pay? She said, yes, we're going to pay. We're going to bring the truck back this evening, and we're going to pay. So I had to go to work, and I went here and left the matters in their hand.
So they put the $95 on your credit card, and they never paid for it in cash?
Yes,
How you doing?
Yes?
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Let's get down to business. Do you owe this lady $95?
Yes, I do.
So why are you here?
Well, basically, it's like that happened when I did have the money. She wasn't in town. She was out of state, so I ended up spending the money. So when she came back, I told her...
Just a minute. You rented the truck.
Yes.
And you had the money.
Yes.
In cash.
Yes. No, not at the time that she rented the truck.
That's what you told me.
So then you got the money.
You're right.
How much later did you get the money?
It was about a week later.
So why didn't you send it to her?
I didn't have an address for her. Plus, when I had the money, she was gone out of state.
Actually, the money was supposed to be paid that day. The credit card was only to hold a truck, because you can't get one without a credit card. He was supposed to pay that day, either that night or the next morning they dropped off the truck.
No, because I told her I didn't have the money, because if I did, I would have gave her the money that day.
If that was the case, I would have never let him rent a truck on my credit card, knowing he may have done that to me.
If she knew
I assume you have the
I
money
had the
today. Listen, I assume you have the money today.
No, I do not.
Well, you better get it. Do you work?
Yes, I do. But she owed me.
She owes you for what?
Well, back on March the 22nd, or at the end of March, my daughter babysitted her kids. Her kids got out of hand one time, and they was just basically running in and out the dining area where my cabinet was, and they ended up breaking my champagne glasses for a wedding.
That was never, I never did know anything about it.
I told her about it.
March?
And yes, when Toya kept the kids that day.
Just a second.
And I told her that the glasses cost $150. It was our wedding champagne. It was engraved with our name on it and everything. She said she was going to pay me back.
This is all new to me. I've never even heard this.
Mr. Amos, that really has no... You can't set off, sir. What you're looking to do is set off the champagne glasses for the $95 that you owe her. Let me tell you this. If your daughter...
It has nothing to do with that. I mean, you know, it's like she said she was going to pay me. That's just like the same thing I'm supposed to pay her. I'm going to pay her and she ain't paying me.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Well, I want to tell you something. I'm not deciding that lawsuit with the broken champagne glasses, but if I was deciding that lawsuit, this would be my decision. Pay careful attention. Your daughter, who is how old?
She's 16 now.
She assumed the responsibility of taking care of these two children. It was her responsibility to see to it that the two children were supervised at all times, and if there was anything in the house that could be broken or whatever, it was her responsibility to see to it that those things were out of harm's way. Do you understand?
Yeah, but I had told her kids several times to stay out the dining area.
Then
they were supposed to have been in the play area.
Then what you have to do is tell your daughter, who would assume the responsibility for those children, to take the children outside. Do you understand?
But it was at night.
Hey, Mr. Amos, you got an answer for every question. You owe her the money. Period. End of discussion. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $95. That's it.
Parties are excused. 6 on the calendar in the matter of Palmer versus Palmer. All parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
This is a pretty sad situation.
Very sad.
Mr. Palmer, this is your daughter, Vanessa. Vanessa, how old are you?
17.
And you're suing your daughter, Mr. Palmer, because you say that she left your home. And when she left, she took a car that had been purchased, and she owes you money for the car. You either want the car back or you want her to start paying you the money for the car. And she left your home under very unfortunate conditions. So I have a few questions, and then we're going to try to resolve this, okay?
Okay.
All right, Vanessa?
Okay.
Now, when's your birthday?
August 28th.
You say you bought the car, you say for her, but she was supposed to make payments on the car.
Yes.
No, he bought the car for my birthday and because I got a job. And he told me
to tell my friends that I had to pay him back so they wouldn't get jealous, but he told me it was for my birthday.
Could you both come up here for a minute? Mr. Palmer, I don't know what could motivate a parent other than anger to bring their 17-year-old to court. I'm sure it's not the money, right? Because her birthday, this car was bought almost a year ago, correct?
Correct.
And for a year, you didn't pay any money, right? You seem to acknowledge that.
Yes.
So why now?
Because over the past year, I had been asking when this was the only obligation that I asked of her throughout the entire period was that I will get a car for you. She wanted a brand new one, but I was not going to co-sign to purchase.
Which I would have been paying for.
To purchase a brand new car. Furthermore, going to school and working part-time, I really feel that it's not in your budget. So what I said I would do is purchase the car for her, pay cash. This eliminates finance charges. Also, you would only have to have the liability insurance, and I feel that it would best fit.
How much did you pay for the car?
It was around $900. Then,
So it wasn't an expensive car, and then it was in an accident, according to your papers. It took some
No,
fixing
it
up.
was stolen.
Or it was stolen and
Right.
it was trashed or something, and you
Yeah.
had to pay some money to fix it.
correct.
Step back, Mr. Palmer. Step back, Vanessa. First of all, Mr. Palmer, we're going to get to the emotional part of this case in a minute. How much is the insurance on the car, Vanessa?
$53 a month.
And you pay that?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Palmer, how much did you tell your daughter she was supposed to pay you each month towards the purchase price of the car?
We had to establish, first of all, approximately what her income was going to be.
Did you have this discussion with your father?
No. No. He never told me I had to pay him back for the car. Whenever he was upset with me or mad at me, he told me I owe him. But other than that, he never told me.
Oh, no, that's not true.
What I asked you, Mr. Palmer, was a very simple question. How much did you tell your daughter she had to pay you back each month for the car, like an installment loan? Give me the figure that you say you told her.
I didn't give her a figure. I was somewhere around $100 a month.
That's not a business arrangement, sir. Somewhere around $100 a month. So for a year, she didn't give you anything.
Yes.
That's while she
correct.
was living in your home.
Yes. Of which I had asked her over that year, when are we going to start fulfilling the obligation that we had agreed upon?
That was pretty much when you got angry with her? She says it was when you got angry with her, when
No.
she did something wrong.
No,
You mean-
Your Honor, that was not why I got angry at her.
Why did you go and live with your father in 1991, Vanessa?
Because it was a better living situation than with my mother. She was separated from my stepfather, so
Did your father take good care of you?
yeah.
Then you got to be 17, and according to these papers, you got a boyfriend.
Right.
And your father didn't approve of either the boyfriend or...
He approved of him until he found out he was my boyfriend, because he's friends with a neighbor of my dad's, and he says, "Oh, he's such a nice guy," and this and that. And then whenever he found out he was my boyfriend, he didn't approve. Actually, because he has a kid, he didn't approve.
He has a what?
A daughter.
He has a daughter?
Mm-hmm.
How old is his daughter?
6 months.
Vanessa.
Yes, Your Honor.
You don't have to bring coals to pilly on. Did you ever hear that? Vanessa. I was a family court judge for a very long time. Do you know how many times I've seen 16 and 17-year-old girls? Not all of them as pretty as you are. Tell me that they love a guy and he's got 2 or 3 kids floating around, right? Do you know how it sits on your father's shoulders when he sees his beautiful 17-year-old daughter dating a guy who has a 6-month-old baby? How irresponsible that is. How old is your boyfriend?
20.
20. And I assume he's a president of a bank or something. That's how he earns a living?
No, he was working until he broke his ankle.
He was working at what?
In a warehouse.
And now what is he doing?
He broke his ankle, now he's on disability.
Wonderful. So now we have a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old baby. And you wonder, I mean, I wish, Vanessa, that you could take yourself out of your 17-year-old body and make yourself 40. For a minute. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he knows, if he's smart, how easy it is to throw away your life when you're 17 and to make a mistake when you're 17 and you can't recoup. The woman or the girl who had your boyfriend's 6-month-old baby is never going to be able to recoup her life. Don't you understand? If he liked him, he liked him. Then he found out he was your boyfriend and he's got a 6-month-old baby. You think that there's something wrong with your father for being angry at that and for saying to you, listen, babe, I'm going to do whatever I can to see to it that you don't ruin your life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer says his 17-year-old daughter Vanessa had no right to take the car when she left home to live with her mother.
You're a mother. Stand up here. Stand up here. What's your name?
Donna.
What did you tell the daughter about this boyfriend?
She's dating him. She's not marrying him.
I don't care whether she's dating him or marrying him. Didn't you explain to her what the problems are?
When I found out that he had a child, I was a little upset about that. Other than that, I think he's fine.
You think a 20-year-old with a 6-month-old
It's
baby
not
who's
my-
on disability is fine for your 17-year-old gorgeous daughter?
He, as a person, is fine.
Listen, there are a lot of very nice people. I have daughters. I have 2 of them. If my daughter, who was 17 years old, came home to me and said, I got a boyfriend who's 20 years old, who's on disability, who's got a 6-month-old kid, that he's not supporting because he's on disability.
Excuse me.
He still is supporting his daughter.
What can I do about that?
You can try to
I can
discourage her.
alienate
Just a
her.
second, you can try to discourage her.
It was a done deed.
It's a done deed.
That's
right. She's in love with him.
She's in love with him.
I mean, they're not planning to marry, to run off together. They both live at separate residences. They're dating.
You know, maybe if your
She
daughter had a
works, she goes
unified,
to
maybe if
school.
your daughter had a unified front with her parents, and both of her parents saying to her, this is a tremendous mistake, then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation, because I gather from these papers and from what you're saying that the reason your daughter left home was
let him come
because
over?
you said, I don't want him in my house anymore.
She was thrown out.
Just a second.
He threw her out.
What happened, sir?
No, Your Honor, that is not true.
Oh,
That is
God.
not true. That is not true at all. When I stated that it is not in her best interest to see this young man anymore because of what we have been discussing, was when it all broke loose. She said, well, fine, then. And she said this in the presence of my 2 younger ones, because I walked outside to kind of cool off a little bit. That, fine, then, I will go live with my mother.
No.
That is
Your
not
Honor.
what happened.
Well, you weren't
Well,
there. Just
you-
a second. You weren't there. So you tell me your version of what happened.
We were arguing and he was yelling at me. And he yelled at me to help my sister with her homework. So I did. And he was still yelling, and I yelled back, why are you yelling at me when I'm helping you? And he said, don't yell at me, shut up or get out. And I said, fine, then I'll go. And he said, take all your, well, he didn't say stuff, but.
Was it about turning it off?
Mr. Palmer,
Tell her that.
that was a heated argument. You understand how that falls on a 17-year-old. You understand how that falls on her, even if, you know, even if said in anger. If it was said in anger. But you were looking for a reason to leave the house.
No, I wasn't. He told me all the time, I can't wait till you're 18. Since you have to stay here, I'm going to make it hell for you.
Oh, please.
I'm going to make you want to leave.
Is that what he said to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why would he say that to you?
Ask him.
Who are you?
Insane.
My name is Victoria, and he had told her right in front of me, well, maybe I would love her if she lived at a friend's house.
So.
And I thought that was very wrong.
Yeah, sure, it's very wrong. Bottom line is, everything was okay until you got the boyfriend.
Everything wasn't okay, but that just added to it.
I was under the impression that he was all for the boyfriend.
He let him come over to the house. He went with us to my aunt's house on Easter.
That's where I got my input about
Well, then
the
what
boyfriend.
happened? Then there must have been something that happened. If he was in favor of the boyfriend or was not opposed to the boyfriend, he must have found something out. What did he find out? Find out about the baby?
About the baby. He knew he had the baby.
Right.
No, he knew
That's-
that. He knew
there
that.
we go.
Hey!
Thank
Excuse
you.
me.
Listen, Vanessa.
Thank you.
You didn't.
knew
You
he had-
misunderstood what she said.
He knew that my boyfriend had a baby.
He approved
wasn't
of
against
the boyfriend. He approved of him. I'm serious.
He told me that I could still hang around him if he got a court order with child support and did everything through court. He pays child support for his daughter. He does everything right.
Just
He
a
told
second.
me
He can't
if-
pay child support. Hold on a second. This is getting more interesting by the moment. Mr. Palmer, Mr. Palmer, just a second. Just a second. What you just said to me is, even after he found out about the baby, he said, you could still hang around with him, but I want him to act responsibly towards the baby. I want him to get an order of support and pay
He
it.
already does.
No. Is that what your father said to you?
Yes.
Is that what your father said to you?
He said that if he had a court order for child support and a court-ordered visitation, then it would be okay.
That sounds pretty reasonable to me, sir. I wouldn't be so reasonable, I tell you that right now.
Well,
The reason he didn't go through court, he pays child support and he has visitation. They have a written agreement between the two of them. The reason he doesn't take her to court is because his family is totally against that. So.
You are getting yourself into such a barrel of horse manure. I can't tell you. And to see a mother stand there in an approving manner about this whole thing is, to me, bizarre. Mr. Palmer, listen to me, sir. All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter.
He changed the locks.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Oh, yeah, you guys are
I'm
real
not sure.
intelligent,
You
aren't
tell me
you?
that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer wants his teenage daughter Vanessa to meet her responsibilities by paying for the car she took when she moved out of his home.
All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter. She is, at this point in her life, making a tragic mistake. Tragic.
Yes.
I will not be able to get through to her. You have not been able to get through to her.
Nope.
She's got a mother who's got to head someplace in the clouds somewhere.
Very true.
Right?
Correct.
Right?
Very
But
true.
I'm telling you, Vanessa, you find yourself with a 6-month-old baby, madam.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is over. And you're a very pretty girl, and you sound like an intelligent girl. You sound like you probably do well in school. You have a job in addition to going to school, which suggests to me that you're motivated. You have a certain responsibility because you pay for your own car insurance. And I'm telling you, you hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser. And any 20-year-old guy who's dumb enough to have a 6-month-old baby is a loser.
He's going to become a fireman. He's not a
He's
loser.
right now listen.
What?
Listen, gonna become a fireman isn't making him a fireman now. Right now, he's a 20-year-old on disability with a
It wasn't his
6-month-old
fault he
baby.
broke his ankle.
Listen to me.
He has, this is
Say
him.
nothing. Are you the boyfriend?
Yes.
You the boyfriend? I would suggest that you keep your mouth shut.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David and Vanessa Palmer, a father and daughter, are fighting over the car she took when she moved in with her mother.
Mr. Palmer, I have to dismiss your lawsuit, and I'm going to tell you why, sir. I was really hoping that when I looked at these papers, I could get beyond your lawsuit and see what this was all about and maybe resolve it. I can't. I mean, I can't. She's going to have to come to terms with that herself, but your daughter's 17. She's a minor. And you cannot get a judgment against a minor because right now you are her legal guardian, correct?
True.
So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter as her legal guardian, you would be responsible for it. Do you understand that?
You're suing yourself.
Be suing yourself.
Do you understand that? She's a minor.
No, I do not.
Well, I just,
sue a minor,
listen to
you
me. I don't
sue the
know.
legal guardian.
Hey!
Whatever.
She does not reach the age of majority in this or any other jurisdiction until she turns the minimal age of 18, which means you cannot get a judgment against her. You can get a judgment, however, if she's committed a tort or something else against her guardian. But you, sir, are her lawful guardian. So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter, you would have to pay it. That sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Since you're paying anyway. Now, you can, sir, wait until your daughter turns 18. And then in equity, if you still want to, you can reinstitute this suit. But right now, you cannot sue your daughter. I don't think it was without some value, Mr. Palmer. I don't think that getting this piece out was without some value. I think that your daughter, Vanessa, will at least think a little bit. Vanessa, I have never, in the thousands of times that I've seen young women like you, in cases like yours, it's not unique, I have never seen one of them where the woman, young woman, doesn't find herself behind the 8 ball. And you may be angry with your dad, but if this is all over the boy, and I gather it is, he's right, you're wrong. You'll figure that out in 5 years' time. Unfortunately, in 5 years' time, it may be too late, which is really what he's saying. And if your mother doesn't see that, she's got clouded vision. This case is dismissed, that's all.
So excuse, you may step out. Judges number 80 on the calendar in the matter of Douglas versus White. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Have a seat.
Mr. Douglas, I've read your complaint. I've read your response. Ms. White, don't understand a lot of it. What I gather, sir, is that you rented a room from the defendant.
That's correct.
And things, according to your complaint, became untenable there. You moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're suing the defendant for $5,000.
Yes.
You rented him a room. You say he moved out owing you a month's rent because he didn't give you 30 days' notice. So you're suing him for $5,000.
Plus sexual harassment.
Well, my limit is $5,000, so I assume that everything that you're suing for is part of your $5,000.
That's correct.
This better be good. Let's go.
It's pretty good. I moved in. When I went to apply for the room, I asked for no drinking, no smoke, or little smoking, and no violence of any kind.
Is this a private house?
Yes, it is.
All right.
This was just at the time of the application.
Excuse me?
This was at the time of the application for the room. There were 3 people there, the defendant, Rose, her witness, and another gentleman.
Okay, so what happened?
The first month I moved in, it was pretty calm, but thereafter it just got worse.
How did it get worse?
The defendant fought with her roommate constantly in the middle of the night. They'd get drunk and fight. They'd throw chairs at each other, beat each other up. This was happening every night.
So why didn't you just tell him you were leaving?
I couldn't afford to at the time.
Just a second. What do you mean you couldn't afford to?
I'm on a fixed income, and it was costing me $450 a month to live there. I didn't have enough money to move, period.
Well, how much did it cost you to move in?
$450. that was, she gave me a break. I just had to pay the first month's rent and half of the second month.
So you didn't have much
No
of an
place else.
investment in
Nope.
there, so why couldn't you just move out?
No place else would do that. I had to have first and last month.
Well,
And
that's not the defendant's fault, sir.
I didn't blame the defendant for that.
Well, so
I just could not afford to move.
So what are you
until I moved.
suing the defendant for $5,000 for?
Because she didn't take it. The money that I paid her was supposed to go as part of the rent or part of the mortgage payment. It never got paid.
What does that have to do with you?
A lot, because the mortgage company's going to throw me out.
What does that have to do with you? You're
I
giving her
went in there,
$450. I'm trying to figure out where this $5,000 number came from.
Well, on top of the not paying the rent, my electricity was shut off.
When?
The last part of January.
And how many months had you been living there?
3 months at that time.
How come the electricity got shut off?
Because he took over control of my house. He told all the tenants, because I got notice of trustee sale, because I'd been trying to save my house after divorce. He got all the tenants together and said, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay any utilities. And they didn't at that point. They all stopped.
Why did he tell the people that they didn't have to pay rent?
Because he said because my house was being supposedly foreclosed, and it didn't.
Oh. So you found, let me understand this. You found out, sir, that the house was in foreclosure. Just a minute. Okay. You found out that the house was in foreclosure.
Yes.
And you had a conversation with the other tenants that if the house was in foreclosure, they didn't have to pay.
No.
That's incorrect. I'm sorry.
Who are you?
I'm the witness. I lived in the household at the same time.
Okay, I'll get to you then.
Thank you.
That's important. Did you step up here? One question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay electric?
Yes, ma'am.
You have your proof of that?
I did not bring that. I didn't know I was going to be on trial myself.
When this person moved out, they owed me 2.5 months out of the 4 months they were there. And I'm suing.
This
yes,
lady?
that person right there owes me over 2.5 months. They didn't pay diddly squat to me. And they moved in with this guy.
You have proof?
I do have proof, but it's in Sacramento.
That you paid the last 2 months' rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did not happen.
Sit down. Are you currently living with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Not with. We're sharing an apartment. Yeah, I want that.
I still don't know where we get $5,000 from, Mr. Douglas.
The electricity was shut off. She shut it off. It wasn't shut off because of the thing. I had to have it turned back on.
So
she stole several of my own personal things
like
from
what?
me. I have a list. Would you like to see it?
Sure. A miniature pulpit? What is that?
A friend of mine had a pulpit made for me, a small one.
Why would your friend do that?
Because I'm a minister, or was a minister at the time he had it made.
How long ago was that?
2 years.
What kind of a minister?
A Christian minister.
I mean, did you have a congregation?
No, I was a counselor.
Counselor for whom?
Marriage counselor.
I'm going to, listen to me. I'm going to read you a few things, and I want you to tell me whether you have any of these things. Ready?
I'm ready.
A miniature pulpit.
That was left in the room and it's still there.
So it's there, ready for him to get.
Yes, I took pictures.
Vinyl and wire lampstand.
That was left in the room. I have pictures.
Cookie jar.
That is in my case right here. It was left in the room.
Shh. 2-slice toaster.
That was left in the kitchen where it was left.
Just say,
Sure.
I tell you what,
In
just
kitchen.
say yes.
Yeah.
Just say yes that you have it, okay? Sorted couch pillows.
No.
Lavender blanket.
No.
A year's worth of new magazines.
Left in room.
Footstool.
My property. Extortion.
Your property.
My property.
Okay. Computer, monitor, and stand base. Do you have that?
No, I don't.
Set of 4 relaxation tapes.
No,
Do you
I
have that?
don't have this.
All right. You now know what she has. Shep. You now know what she has, and we'll make arrangements for you to go pick them up. Now, what else are you suing her for?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you mean you didn't know who this person was?
I didn't know this person was a man.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Minister Joseph Douglas says he rented a room from Christina White but felt trapped in a nightmare. Christina says Joseph was the problem.
Now, what else are you suing her for? So far, I haven't heard anything anywhere near $5,000 worth. All that merchandise that she has, you can have back. I still have. Stop looking at your papers. Tell me where $5,000 is, Mr. Douglas.
Your Honor, I went through pure hell living in that house for 4 months.
Then you should have moved, sir.
I couldn't afford to.
That's not her fault.
Well, it is her fault.
No, sir. She didn't charge you. She didn't charge
me
you.
something when I moved in there, Your Honor.
Okay.
And she didn't fulfill that agreement.
No.
And I have a witness to that, too, or a statement from the other witness.
I don't read statements from witnesses. I hear witnesses. I don't take statements from witnesses. So far, if you moved into an apartment, $450 a month rent. She didn't charge you security.
$300 a month.
$300 a month. She didn't charge you security. She didn't charge you first and last. You didn't bring in a whole bunch of stuff, according to you. And if you couldn't afford to move out, she wasn't saying to you, she didn't keep you prisoner there. You could have moved out. Because you can't sue her for $5,000 because you were unhappy there, sir. You're unhappy, you move. This is America. All right, you are countersuing him for what?
I am countersuing for the damage to my room and house.
Do you what?
For the damage to my room and house. He left the room filthy, and I have pictures of how the room was left and the stuff he left in the room here, if you care to see some of that. May I?
Come on, get somewhere near $5,000, madam.
Okay. We're getting to that right now.
Well, then let's get to it, because this other stuff is nonsense.
Okay.
He wasn't happy living there. You weren't happy having him there. He left, period. End of discussion.
I wish that had been the end of it, ma'am. The mental and sexual harassment.
Well, you can tell me about that.
First of all, when he left, that was a bit of a charade. He promised me a note that he would pay. He sent someone else to pick up the stuff the next day. And then the day after that, on the 9th, he sent me this threatening, harassing note. And he
Show it
ends
to him and see
with a
if
note
he...
with, "Have a nice day. It may well be one of your last."
Did you send that note, sir?
Yes, I did.
Can I see it, please? Dear Charles and Christine.
All of his correspondence has been addressed that way. The small claims court was addressed that way.
Why do you address the mail like this, sir?
Because that's the way I filed it in court, and I wanted the court to know that I didn't know who this person was until a month before I moved out. That's why I'm angry.
What do you mean you didn't know who this person was?
I didn't know this person was a man.
Because, just a second.
Order.
What? Well, why, sir, would you address mail?
Because I didn't know whose name to send it in, Your Honor.
Well, how was this person introduced to you? How did you...
Christine.
You identified yourself as Christine.
Christine, yes. Totally.
All the time?
All the time, 100%.
Not all the time, Your Honor.
100%.
When she was at home, it was whatever.
I have a witness here that would dispute that. That's ridiculous.
Listen, have you officially changed your gender?
Everything, my legal gender, as shown in my driver's license,
is female.
Changed. Yes, it is.
Okay, and when was that done?
About 4 years ago.
Okay. Am I correct that the sexual harassment that you are referring to is the fact that he has addressed documents that he's sent out to people using both your female name and the name Charles?
My previous married name, yes.
Okay.
That is just the beginning of it.
Go ahead.
Him and this other person co-conspired to get me fired at my job. They filed 2 Better Business Bureau complaints alleging, Diane was the first one, alleging went into my store and found this person who was, quote, a man dressed as a woman.
Let me see.
And it has my business response to it, and this is also, he followed with the next day one that alleged the same thing. And everything was fraudulent. They said they could talk to my supervisor. It did not happen.
I don't know what this is about. You want to tell me?
This is about them, this person here, claiming they came in my store and saw me as some stranger, and I've known that person for 2
Just a minute.
years.
I'm talking about this gentleman. Forget about her.
Okay.
She's not party to this action.
Him, he followed up with the same identical thing.
No, Your Honor, that's not true.
It's right there in black and
I
white.
wrote the letter, but I wrote it because I objected to this person working in the women's department.
Just a second. You wrote to the Better Business Bureau advising them that the defendant was working in the women's department of a store.
Yes.
And she was actually a man, and you thought that that was wrong.
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that?
Because I think it's wrong.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you just curse in here?
I might have.
Get out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
But I think you got a lot of nerve with this. This is pretty vindictive. This is pretty vindictive and pretty nasty.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Minister Joseph Douglas and Christina White are at war over rent, invasion of privacy, and allegations of sexual harassment.
That was typical of the situation I lived in. I couldn't do anything.
Then you should have left.
I tried.
Oh, please, give me a break.
I didn't have the money.
That's too bad. That's too bad. That's not her fault. That's not my fault. How old are you, sir?
50.
If you're 50 years old and you didn't have $400 to move out and find another place to live, that's a real problem.
Your Honor.
What?
It would have taken $1,200 to move.
Didn't cost you $1,200 to move
I
into
got
her
lucky,
apartment.
or I thought I had.
Well, you thought you got lucky, and you didn't.
Obviously.
And you didn't. But I think you got a lot of nerve with this. This is pretty vindictive. This is pretty vindictive. Just a second. Pretty vindictive and pretty nasty. This having.
I still object to her working there. I don't care if it's vindictive or nasty to anybody else. She shouldn't be working in a woman's department.
What? Where did you go to divinity school, sir? Where did you
Florida.
graduate from divinity school?
Florida.
What?
Florida.
Give me the name of the school. Just a second. Give me the name of the school.
United Faith Ministry.
United
Bible,
Faith
Yes, Bible College.
And how long did you go to this United
3
Faith
years.
Ministry? When?
1986 through 1989.
Did you graduate from there?
Yes, ma'am.
After 3 years?
Yes.
Divinity school?
Yes.
Where did you go to school before that? You don't go to divinity school for 3 years, sir.
Well, I did.
You don't get a
Honor.
Doctor of Divinity in 3 years. Unless you
don't
get
have-
unless
I
you
don't
get your
have-
Doctor of
I
Divinity and
don't
close
have-
the cover before you
I
strike.
do not have a DD, Your Honor.
Huh?
That's a Doctor of Divinity.
Yeah. So what are
Mine
you?
is in religion. It's a PhD, and it's an honorary PhD, but it's still valid.
Right. I just want to make sure we understand each
Okay.
other, sir. Because I understand you. This is a vindictive thing to do. What else?
Well, basically my job was pretty much ruined his career, ruined that
Did you
place.
get fired from your job?
Not
Good.
yet, but it's going
Oh,
back.
that's something.
Okay, I
Let me
have
see
also
the
my
letter.
counseling. I've had to start counseling because of what they've done. I mean, sexual harassment and what happened at my work. Because I used to go to work and feel happy, and now I go there and I just feel like I've been raped at my work by this man and this other person.
Yeah.
Thank you. And caused breach of contract by other tenants by saying that they didn't have to pay rent or utilities, and that's the only reason is I ran out
Listen
of
to
money.
me. I'm not entertaining that. The fact that he told other tenants that they did not have to pay rent or utilities, and they listened to him
Yes,
because
they did.
because they were stupid. Go after them in a separate action, each one
Yes.
of them for money that they owe you.
I
What
am.
else?
He interfered with my mortgage contract when they tried to serve me the trustee sale notice, and I was home. He stopped him from doing that, and he got the notice, and he read it, and had him put it on the door. He actually said I wasn't home. Yes.
They posted the notice. That's all it was,
After
Your
you told him
Honor.
I wasn't home. You lied.
They had already posted it.
You lied. I was home.
She's ready to rule.
Listen to me. He has, as abhorrent as I believe it is, he has a right to voice his objection as a citizen under the First Amendment to the Better Business Bureau with regard to someone who he knows is a man who is now a woman working in a woman's shop.
Well, he didn't know that from me, Your Honor.
Well, he may not have known it from you, but that happens to be true. So he has a First Amendment right to write to the Better Business Bureau. His motives, I question, just as I question his reverendship. All right. But that is not actionable. It's not sexual harassment. He's saying that he finds that not a reasonable situation to have you working in a woman's department in a store. Now, I don't know what business is it of his unless he goes in to buy ladies' things and goes into the dressing room, but he's allowed to do that because that's what the First Amendment to the Constitution says he's allowed to do. Listen, you get nothing from this court, sir. Absolutely, positively nothing except within 4 days, escorted. You can go and retrieve the items that you will please have put to one side someplace so we can pick up all the items that he has left in your apartment.
Right, my house.
Now, most of the damages that you are requesting from this court have to do with this harassment and making your life miserable.
Yes. Inside and out.
Inside and out. He left without giving you 30 days notice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I had a 3-day or quit notice, Your Honor, so I left.
You didn't leave within 3 days. You hung on.
Just a minute.
Okay.
He left. I would assume, Miss White, that you are very happy to be rid of him.
Very.
That you didn't want him around for an additional 30 days. Correct?
I actually offered he could stay there if he promised to catch up on the rent.
Just a second. From everything that you've told me,
Yeah.
you were very happy that he moved out when he didn't stay an additional 30 days.
Sure. I mean, at that
Good.
point, yes.
Give him back everything that you owe him. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Creech versus Daniels. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
All right, Miss Creech, you were in a relationship with this gentleman for about 7 years, according to your complaint.
Yes.
And towards the end of that relationship, you say you lent him money to buy a car.
Right.
$4,000 to buy the car and another $1,100 for what?
For stereo and an alarm.
And how much after you made this loan to him did you separate?
About a month and a half.
You couldn't tell that there was handwriting on the wall?
No.
No?
No, I guess he could, but I couldn't.
You, sir, say that this was a gift.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
So?
Not.
Tell me how it came about.
Okay. We had a car that we bought together, a Trans Am that we were going to sell.
A Trans Am?
The deal was he came home on March 28th and he took off with the car.
Which car?
The Trans Am, with his friend, supposedly to show it to somebody to sell. But actually, it went down to another woman's house. And so then he, the next morning, he took off with the Camaro.
Just a minute. How did we get to the Camaro? I want to know how you bought the Camaro.
I bought it with, my dad died and he left me some money. And it was in a separate account with my name on it. And I wrote the check to the company.
How did you
in
find
cash.
this Camaro?
Oh, we were shopping for parts at a wreckage company and they had the car for sale. And it was
This
a
was
good
about
deal.
a month before you separated.
Right.
So,
It was on
what was the
Valentine's
conversation
Day.
like when you saw this car?
Well, we were looking at the car and he said, God, this is a good deal for $4,000 and it's 10 years younger or younger than what I already have. And so I said, well, let's think about it, because at the time he had quit his job and he wasn't working. And I said, if you get a job, then we'll get the car. Well, Monday came, he told me he had a job, which was a big lie. And then he
What
went
did he
back
say to you?
his-
He got a job doing what?
driving a truck like he always does.
And you were living together at this time?
Yeah.
And you lived together the entire 7-year period?
On and off.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, on Thursday, the previous Thursday, he told me I have a job and I start Monday. So I believed him like an idiot. And Monday came and went, and so did the job. And then he went in and he has a drinking problem. He went in and he told me they decided not to accept me because, you know, the insurance wouldn't accept him.
What do you mean?
Well,
You mean
when
the
you have-
insurance for the trucking job?
Right, because he had a DUI like 10 years ago on his record.
Okay.
So, but the time was a little fishy, like when he left to when he went to this job. So amazing, he comes back to San Jose and he got his old job back, where he always gets it back. You know what I mean? Because when he works well. It's when he doesn't work, he drinks. So we got the job back and started driving the truck. But I never got any money back.
Just a second. I still didn't hear how you bought the car.
Oh, then we went back to where this, you know, car was for sale, and he had a job, and I wrote the check, and the deal was he was supposed to be paying me back some money, but the money never came.
Now, when you got the car, You paid for the full amount, is that
Yes.
right? So far, is that correct, sir?
Paying for the full amount, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. And you put the car in whose name?
Jointly.
Joint?
Joint. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so far, that's at least one smart thing that you did.
Yeah, once in my life, yeah.
Okay. And then a month later, you separated.
Right.
But he also wanted a stereo in the car and an alarm.
Well, a week or two after that, we went down to this place where we had bought stereos and alarms before and just had it put in. I put it on the Visa. It was $1,100. So that's how.
So this was 2 weeks before you separated.
We bought the car on the 14th of February, and we bought the stereo on the 22nd of February.
And when did you separate?
The 29th of March.
Not a long time.
No.
So now you've got a
new
nice
car.
new Camaro with a stereo and an alarm.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what caused you to separate?
Her story is pretty well to the point. There's a few things that are just kind of a little iffy on that. For one thing, the other car is a 76 Pontiac Firebird, not a Trans Am. There's a difference. Okay. And another thing, the part about getting a job never came up.
Let's start about the part about the car.
The car.
Such a lie.
The car.
Okay.
You
car.
are such a liar.
Car. Miss
Why
Creech.
would I buy a
Miss
car
Creech.
if he had no job
Miss Creech.
to pay me back? Such a liar.
Are we done?
No, we're
Yeah,
not done.
Miss Creech.
We're done.
If you want to talk to him, you go outside. If you want to talk to me, you can stay here.
Okay.
Thank
Is that
you.
fair?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
7 years of this. Anyway, what I'm saying is there was no contract. We went to get parts for my car.
No contract with whom?
Her and I.
Let me have. You think that there should have been a contract
No,
between
no, no,
the
no,
two
no,
of you?
no. There shouldn't have been a contract because there was no question in my mind that
what?
That we were buying a car and it was going to be my car. She can't. Can you drive a stick?
Just a second.
Can you? She can't drive a stick, Your Honor.
What does that got to
Listen
do
to
with
me.
anything?
Listen to me. She said that you were buying this car because you were going to sell the old car that you had.
That's perfectly correct.
I know, because that's what you put in your answer.
Right, but the thing is, there was no time that I was going to sell the car. I said, I'm going to sell the car, which doesn't mean I had a buyer for it. The car is for sale right now.
The car's in Riverside.
Just a second.
The car has a for sale sign on it right now, Your Honor, in Riverside, at this young lady's house.
Yeah.
Okay? The
Why
car-
do you think? And you have, so you have both cars.
Yes.
Let me understand this. Let me just put on my thinking cap and understand this whole thing. You have the Pontiac, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the Camaro.
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the stereo.
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the alarm.
Correct, Your Honor.
She has the Visa bill.
Correct,
Right, just
Your
a
Honor.
second. She has the Visa bill. She has the Visa bill. She has the check stub for $4,000 and fond memories of you. That's what she has. You think that that's fair?
Your Honor.
No. Your Honor, I know who I am. Do you think that that's fair?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did you break up, sir?
I
That's
told
my
her
point.
either he goes or I go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Thomas Daniel says his former live-in, Susan Creech, is mad because he left her after 8 years. Susan says he left with the Camaro she paid for.
So how are we going to make it fair, sir?
Well, if I can convince you that I...
Order.
You asked me a question earlier about...
If you can convince me what?
If I can convince you that there was no she bought this Friday we went and took a look at the car. We didn't talk about the car all weekend long. Monday she goes, do you want to go and let's go and get your car? And I never mentioned it to her. Not one word did I say to her. Friday we talked about it. We discussed it. I said, I'll put the Firebird up for sale.
Just a minute. Let's go back.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You said, you discussed it, and you said, I'll put the Firebird up for sale. Whatever we get to the Firebird, we can put towards this, and then we will pay it off.
No.
No.
No. I said I would put the Firebird up for sale.
For what?
Huh? Well, I can't drive both cars, Your Honor.
And what are we going to do with the money that you got from the Firebird?
Okay.
Oh,
We
not
had a
okay.
joint. We had
Not
a joint.
okay.
We
Answer
had,
my
Your Honor,
question.
we had a joint account.
Just a second.
My checks went with her account. Her checks went in her account. Okay. She had all
My
the Visa
check, just a
cards.
second. My checks, you just said, went with her account.
You're damn right.
And her check,
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
my checks went in her account. And her checks went in
Her account.
her account.
We had a joint account. Okay.
So that all the checks went together.
Right. Who had
You were going to sell the Firebird
and put it back
in the joint account.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's okay. So that you have money to pay for the visa, the $1,100 paying
Very
off the
good.
visa and all that stuff. Right? Just a minute. Am I right so far?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, then you didn't sell the Firebird, and I am correct. She has the memories and the bills, and you have the cars and the stereo.
Correct.
So then what's the problem?
Ms. Creech?
Yes.
I don't see quite frankly, sir, that there's any problem. You bought this car and there was an understanding, a 7-year relationship, there was an understanding that you were going to use this car together. Evidently, you did the driving, she was the passenger in the car most of the time when you traveled together. You were going to have one car. You were going to sell the Firebird, you were going to have the Camaro, right?
She has her own car, Your Honor.
That's true, but I also have my own vehicles, which I drive.
She can't drive my car, Your Honor. She knew going into this deal, going into this proposition, that it was a stick, Your Honor. She can't drive a stick.
He always buys cars that have sticks. Every
They're-
single car
they're my
he's ever
vehicles.
owned.
But just a second, if you buy, they're your vehicles, if you buy them, she bought this one. And you
with
say it was,
our money, Your Honor.
What do you mean with our- just a minute,
It was
she
a
says-
joint account. It was a joint account, Your Honor. It was our money.
Just a second.
My money went in there also. It was not just her money.
Hold on. $4,000. She said this $4,000 came from
In 7 years' time, I
I'm
have
not
worked more than $4,000, Your Honor.
No, we're not
I have
just
put
a minute.
money in this bank.
Just a second. Talking about the $4,000 that she took out of an account. Did she take that out of your joint account?
No.
No.
Well, then that wasn't your joint money.
Sonny, we
We're
had
not
no
going
money
back
in
to
it,
the,
huh?
Listen, sir, we're not going back to the year of the flood. You were together 7 years. You ate a lot of meals during those 7 years.
Drank a lot
you
of
paid a
beer.
lot of rent. You whatever. She says you drank a lot of booze.
Lots.
Whatever it was, you lived over that 7 years. And you can't say, well, I must have given her $4,000 over that 7 years. That doesn't sound right to you. This $4,000, she says, came out of a probate account when someone in her family died and left her some money.
Right.
But is it your position that she bought you these things as a gift as a gift?
As a gift.
Why? Because she loved you?
Yeah.
And because she thought you were going to be together?
I thought, yeah.
Okay. So that dream lasted another 4 weeks after she bought you
But
this
there's
stuff.
a lot more to it, Your Honor.
I know. I'm not interested in what happened 6 years ago and 5 years ago. What I want to know, sir, is what was the precipitous for your breaking up 4 weeks after you bought this car?
Okay, Your Honor.
That's me.
She has a son, a 19-year-old son who does not work, has been graduated out of school, does nothing more than run around with gangs, does nothing more than get stopped doesn't get stopped for tagging, gets thrown in jail for tagging. I've told her that she goes to work at 11 o'clock at night. I stay home and sleep.
Why did you break up, sir?
I
Get
told
to the
her
point.
either he goes or I go. Okay? He was staying. I said, hasta la vista. And I left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As long as I never have to see or hear from you again, I'm happy.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ex-lover Susan Creech and Tom Daniels are fighting over the Camaro she bought just before they broke up.
2 weeks after I'm gone, she kicks him out of the house and then says to me, well, you were right.
Not 2 weeks.
Just a second. Just a second.
She says,
Hold
you're
it.
right. You're right.
Right.
I said, but what did it take me leaving the house for? Because we've been fighting about it for months, literally months. And it got to the point where I just said, hey, I'm beating my head against the wall. I come home here and try and get a good night's sleep, and all I'm doing is listening to boom boxes at 2:30 in the morning. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go down there, and I got tired of threatening the kid. Okay? Doesn't prove that I'm a big man because I can threaten a 19-year-old kid. All right?
So
I got tired of it.
So why are you angry with her?
Angry with her?
Shh. Yeah, why are you angry with her? You gave her a
Because
choice.
I gave her all the warnings
No,
in the
no,
world.
let
Your
her-
Honor, I gave her all the warnings in the world. I said, look, Either he goes or I go. I gave her 30 days. 30 days came and passed. I gave her 60.
You have
what
children?
was I going to do?
You have children?
Do I have children? Of
why
my
do you
own,
keep
yes.
Why do you keep repeating
Yes,
my
Your Honor,
questions?
I do.
How old are your children, sir?
21, 27, and 16, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
I don't see them.
You don't see them?
No,
Why is that?
I don't see my children.
Well,
That's not fair.
then let me suggest this to you, sir. It's very difficult for a parent, in this case a mother, to be faced with an ultimatum, even from a maid of 7 years, that says it's either your son or me. When you say you got 30 days to choose your son or me, even though he's a pain in the neck, listen, that's not an easy choice for a mother to make. She clearly cared for you. She cared enough for you, and she doesn't look like a lady who's got money coming out of every pore. So she clearly cared enough for you to go out and say, you want this car, you really like it, here's $4,000, I'm going to buy this car because I know it will make you happy if we have this car. And you also like a nice stereo in the car, I'm going to take money out for that too, so that you can have a nice stereo in the car. So she's clearly a lady who cared for you. But when you tell her you got 30 days to choose between him or me, even if this son of hers is a real royal pain in the rump, which I believe he probably is.
He was.
Right? Because
So was
afterwards you told him out. Right. It's not easy to accept that kind of ultimatum from anybody when it comes to a child.
Well, the problem was, though, he had plenty of chances. He's done some really choice things in his life. I felt like I was giving everybody chances, but he's such a selfish person. He has to have everything to himself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's not a very difficult decision to make. You left, you had been having problems, according to your statement, Mr. Daniels, for months with regard to this boy.
So why did he take both cars? I'd like to know why.
I wasn't planning on leaving one to have it trashed.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. How about the
Mr.
how about,
Daniels,
how about the
Mr.
Firebird?
Daniels.
How about the Fiaro? How about the Fiaro? Who keyed the Fiaro?
Me.
Thank you. I'm going to leave a Pontiac sitting there by itself, Your Honor.
Why would I?
For this woman to key up again?
Mr. Daniels,
Doesn't make any sense.
Daniels,
It still wasn't her car.
Why didn't you leave her the Camaro?
Pardon me?
Because he wanted
Just a second. What word didn't you understand?
I wanted the Camaro.
Because
yeah, but just a...
Good.
You wanted the Camaro, Mr. Daniels, but she paid for it. But she paid for it. If you were leaving after 4 weeks, it seems to me a little disingenuous of you, sir, to leave and take a car that she had just purchased for you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Need help in a divorce dispute? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think she bought, and I keep saying bought this car for you to use because she had faith that your relationship was going to continue?
Yeah, I'm sure she had.
Okay. It's no different a situation to me, sir, from somebody giving somebody an engagement ring. And it's always been my position that when a man buys a woman an engagement ring, that's given under a sort of a contract that they have, that they will be together and that they will marry. And in the event that that marriage does not take place, it has always been my position that the ring has to go back to the man. Now, a lot of women say, listen, he gave that to me, it was a gift. But the gift was given with the intention, that ring was given with the intention of the marriage taking place. When that doesn't happen, the contract is over. This car was bought in contemplation of the two of you being together. Maybe if you had been together for 20 years, I would say, well, you know, you were together for 20 years after you bought this car, so that was sort of fulfilled. But there is something that doesn't sit right with me here that you left in a month's time, taking the car, the stereo, as well as the alarm. The alarm should have gone off in your head. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Is there a way that you can make him bring the other car up from Riverside? Because he wants me to go down and get it.
Madam, let me explain something to you. You've just told me this man drinks. He is selfish.
True.
He's self-centered. He gave you an ultimatum with regard to your child, right?
True.
He perhaps has not been totally faithful to your relationship. Big time. Big time?
Big time.
You just won a
You're right.
judgment for $5,000. What do you want a 20-year-old Pontiac for? Right?
True.
Perfect. $5,000 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
On the next Judge.
Your Honor, it's number 90 on the calendar in the matter of Farkas versus Bull. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Farkas, if you tell me the story in as interesting a manner as you wrote it in your papers, it's going to be a fun morning. So, relax and tell me your story.
Well, I was traveling westbound on Sunset Boulevard heading towards Highland. I get to the corner of Highland with a plan to make a right turn. I'm in the far right lane. The light changes. I move forward a foot or a yard. All of a sudden, bam! Mr. Bull over here smashes me from the middle lane of Sunset because he's decided to make a right turn onto Highland. So we pull into a strip center right nearby, and I'm reaching for my documents. I'm just trying to compose myself, and he saunters over to my window, and in his way, oh, I'm so sorry I did this. This is terrible. I had my mind on other things, and I'm getting a divorce. I'm saying, please, I don't want to know. Just let's go with the license and registration. So I look at his license.
Getting a divorce? I just got married, so I can't be getting a divorce.
I'm going to get to you in a second.
I read his license. Dwayne Xavier Bull. License expires in '95. Do you have insurance? No, this I don't have. I look at his license plates, New Mexico license plates. So what are we going to do? He says, I just want to pay for it. Why don't you just take it over to a... So I ask him, what beseeched you? What possessed you to make this turn?
Your Honor,
he says, I saw my boyfriend on Highland Avenue with another man, and I got so upset. I said, I'm not interested. What are you going to do? He says, I'm going to pay. He says, I'm going to pay for it. I tell him I'm going to go right now to get an estimate, and I'm going to bring it to you, and you'll pay for it, and we'll forget the whole thing. Now, the man, can I show this to the judge, please?
Yeah.
The day, exactly at the incident, I wouldn't leave the scene without him signing this. It clearly says, Dwayne Xavier Bull agrees to pay me. He caused the accident. Fine, so he does it. So what happens next? I call him and call him and call him. No answer. He gives me his pager. His salon is on Sunset. Following morning, I walk into his place of business. I walk in, and this young lady takes over. Divorce, marriage, the French woman, I don't know, but she starts. Excuse me, I will handle this. Dwayne has no money. Well, that's good. That's good. What are we going to do? But we want to fix your car, so we want you to take your car to Vahe.
To who?
Vahe.
Vahe.
So Vahe, the Armenian auto body repair. It's right. There's more documents to establish it. I pick up the telephone. I said, I'm not leaving here till I speak to Vahe, so it's perfectly clear that Vahe fixes my car, he pays for it, and I go home. I call up Vahe. And I say, Vahe, do we understand each other? Dwayne Xavier Bull, I'm going to bring my car to Jenemsveld in the valley somewhere, and you should only know where, I don't know where it is. You have to take a cow to get there. So, Vahe, do we understand each other? You're going to fix the car, and Dwayne Xavier Bull is going to pay for it. He says, no problem. We know Dwayne. You bring your car. You'll be very happy. Following morning, my wife and kid in tow with the Camry behind us. We're trucking out to no man's land. Oh, excuse me. Here's the document that says that he agrees to pay Varaz Auto Repair when I bring the car to him. Okay. Dwayne, can you give me a chance?
Mr. Bull, I'm going to let you tell the defendant's side of the story as soon as he's finished, okay? Go ahead.
So I get to Varaz, Vahe's a very nice guy. He says, leave the car, no problem. On my way home, I'm telling my wife, there's no shot in the world that this problem is over. Sure enough, like clockwork, Vahe's boss calls me. Bob the Armenian. Bob, we have a problem. Of course we have a problem. Dwayne Bull didn't come to pay for the car, right. He says, we agreed that he would just pay for the parts and we'll give him time on the labor. The man doesn't come. So I start calling him, Vahe's calling him, Bob is calling him. The man doesn't return calls. Finally, he threatens me on the telephone. I called West Hollywood Police. He says to me, if you call me and harass me anymore, I'll have people beat you up. I call West Hollywood Police, but they're busy with seatbelts. They can't handle this.
How long are you in California, sir?
Not long.
How long were you in California at the time of this accident?
Unfortunately, only about 60 or 90 days, and although it's not relevant to the case, 45 days before this incident, I move into a house on April 4th, and the following day I wake up in the morning and the house is on fire. I'm carrying my baby out in the fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. And oh yes, we heard it enough. Well, here's an official document from the fire department establishing that happened. I know it's not relevant. I'm sorry.
It has nothing to do with the case.
Okay, so did you get your car?
I actually paid for it yesterday for a full month. I mean, this man wreaked havoc on my life.
How much was the...
$1,800.
It was 19 at first.
Excuse me.
You want to pay 19?
He changes
Excuse
his figures.
me. The day I came to him in his salon, I showed him the first estimate that I told him I would get was for 18 and change. Varaz, his own people, estimated at 1,800. And that's what I paid for it. And
$1,800.
$1,800. So this is his own. This is his own people. This is Vahe's estimate.
Okay, Mr. Bull, you've been anxious to tell me your side of the story. Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Repair Mr.
Oh,
Farkas'
your
car.
papers. Come
He
on.
agreed to pay for the repair. He never came by to pay for it.
Paper.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dwayne Bull, a Hollywood hair and makeup specialist, says his collision with actor Peter Farkas on Sunset Boulevard was Farkas's fault, and he shouldn't have to pay for the damage.
Now I'm prepared to hear you, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, the way I see it is, yes, he is correct. I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard.
Stop playing with the papers. Talk to me.
Okay, I was just looking for a little document I wanted to show you as an exhibit. Okay, here it is. I was traveling west. Could you pass this to her, please? I was traveling west on Sunset Boulevard. Now, he was in the far right-hand turning lane, and it was 5 o'clock traffic. I truly believe that he was in that lane because on Sunset Boulevard, people get in that lane to speed to go fast. Your Honor, the way I was hit on the way my car personally was hit, if you look at the estimate, it was hit on my right side front door. Okay, so what I did was I put a signal to turn right. I think he was in this lane to go forward because he was not in our sight, nor did he have a signal.
So you weren't
he hit my car.
You weren't in the far right lane, correct?
No, I wasn't.
Not.
I signaled to go.
You were not in the far right lane. You were in the center lane.
Yes. No, the lane next to the far right lane.
But he was in the far right lane.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So you went to make a right turn.
No, I signaled to
You
make
went
a right
to
turn.
make a right turn.
Yes.
And you were not in the far right lane.
No.
Right. You got out of the car. You went over to this gentleman. You signed a piece of paper indicating that you were prepared to pay for the damage. Right?
Yes, I had not even had the car a day, okay? And yes, I was nervous because I did not have insurance. And yes, I was nervous.
You didn't have
because
insurance.
I didn't have insurance, and I didn't have a driver's license.
That's right.
Okay, so yes, I really was nervous.
So you didn't want, listen to me.
So I didn't want trouble with the police department.
That's
but
right.
not only that, he got personal with me. He asked me, was I gay, okay? And I responded, no, he was coming on to me at the time. And I played with the party too. Yes, I'm married, but of course I'm gonna play into it because I didn't want the police. And I felt if he thought I was gay, then maybe he liked me. It's obvious, he's Nelly.
Okay, Mr. Bull. Now he
this
comes.
is true.
I want you to stop talking. Listen to me. I'm going to ask questions. You're going to answer them. He came to your salon. Now he got to Viha, the Armenian, through you. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm being totally honest. I was nervous. That's the only reason I signed this paper. I did not want to go to jail. Okay. My wife told me, listen, this guy is at fault. He's in our business, and he's screaming, irate, loud. He's from New York. He's obnoxious. It's obvious he's obnoxious. Look at him. Okay? He calls on my phone repeatedly. He tells me about his house caught on fire, how his kids are hungry. He needs his van to transport his kids. All this irrelevant stuff while I have very important clients that are there. In fact, my wife is here. It's proof that I had a client that sit there in the chair when I disputed with him for 20 minutes in my business, screaming because he has no patience and he acts immature. He screamed, 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 and I lost the client. She requested her $150 deposit back for, you know, the services that were being rendered, her hair extension. I am a popular hairstylist, and only thing I ever stated to this man is that when you want to speak to me, you do not call me at home and you make an appointment like everybody else.
Is that what is? Just
Yes.
a minute. Have we now completed your side of the story?
No, I have one more thing to say.
I'm ready to hear you, sir.
Your Honor, again, yes, I admit that my driver's license had expired. But again, from the way my car was hit, he said I hit him. It's obvious he hit me. From the way
That's really not urgently important, sir. I'm going to tell you why. Mr. Farkas had the right at that time, because there was an accident, to pick up the phone and call the police to have them come to the accident.
But why didn't he?
Why? Because sir,
I had... No, because you had problems with your license, too. I'm almost certain you did. You had some kind of problem.
You looked at my license and said, you know, you're a typical Gemini. That was his comment.
Mr. Bull, you, sir, had no insurance and did not want the police to come because you were also driving with a suspended license. He gave up the right to call the police, to have the police come and make a determination based upon, don't interrupt me, based upon what they saw, whose fault this accident was. You said to him at the time,
He never mentioned police.
I will take care of the damage, and you signed a piece of paper indicating you would take care of the damage.
I signed that paper again because I was nervous.
Well, I don't care whether
Anybody
you're nervous or
signs
not.
paper, I mean,
I'm
under
not,
pressure.
listen.
I mean,
I
I
want
was
you to get-
nervous.
I want you to get not nervous,
My
Mr.
personal
Bull.
lifestyle had nothing to do with this case whatsoever. And for him to mention those things about my personal, I think that it was very irrelevant. And it's obvious that, again, from the way the position my car was hit, that it was his fault. But of course, he's not going to admit it.
Your Honor, I was doing...
And you did real good.
I was doing the man a favor.
Doing me a favor.
He's telling me
Mr.
about
Parker.
his wife
Doing me a
problem,
favor.
telling me about the two-timing boyfriend. I mean, the man's got, you know, his sexual confidence. He's a menace on the road.
Mr. Farkas, Mr. Farkas.
I'm sorry. What the hell's so funny?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
He has no idea what my feelings are if I like to ride bicycles. He doesn't know that about
I
me.
dated him for 6 months. We've been friends for 9 months since then.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Farkas, you paid the $1,800 to have your
I
car
did.
fixed? Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,800. The defendant's counterclaim for harassment and all sorts of other things is dismissed.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Please are excused. You may step out.
But you were very smart about getting those papers because that's the only reason why you won this case. But other than that, she would have looked at it for my way. And another, I just think it's because you're blonde and blue-eyed.
I am absolutely convinced that Mr. Bull had his name shortened.
And now the next case.
All parties on Ryder versus Pullman. Step forward.
30-year-old marketing director Kirk Ryder says he loaned his bicycle to his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman, and it was stolen. So now Klaus should pay.
All right. Mr. Ryder, you say that you lent a bicycle to the defendant, and he had it in his possession for a long time, and then through his negligence, the bicycle was stolen. You want your money for the bicycle.
Well, I wanted a new bicycle, basically.
Did you
And-
lend him a new bicycle?
Pardon me? No, I
What
wanted
didn't you understand, sir?
I wanted my bicycle back.
Well, he couldn't give you your bicycle back.
Right. So we entered
So my
into...
question to you is, did you lend him a new bicycle?
No, I did not.
How old was the bicycle that you lent to him?
The bicycle was 3 years old.
And had you purchased it?
No,
How did you get it?
it was... I inherited it from my best friend who died.
And what kind of bicycle was this?
It was a Univega Via Modego, 15-speed, hybrid bicycle.
What happened to a Schwinn?
I don't know. Schwinns are more expensive now.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that they're still in business. At least it doesn't date me.
They are.
All right. So you had the bicycle for how long before you lent it to him?
I had the bicycles since July 1996 when my friend died. And Klaus borrowed it in or around November, I guess. I'm not even sure.
Well, then I gather you weren't using it much.
Well, I was traveling. I travel for a living, so I don't know which trip he borrowed it before. He borrowed it because his car broke down in the desert, and he was using his bicycle to get around. Then the bicycle he was using that he owned broke, and I offered to lend him mine.
So far, does that sound right?
Yes, except for when he loaned it to me.
When did he loan it to you?
In June, in the summer.
Of 96?
Of 96.
What happened to his bike?
It was stolen.
Mr. Pullman, you understand that the bike is in your possession, then you have a responsibility to either replace it or to give him some compensation for it.
He neglected the bicycle. He didn't want the bicycle. It didn't work. It sat in his dining room for 2 years while he was traveling.
Objection.
It didn't work.
Your Honor. What? Sorry. Well, he has no, that's speculation. He has no idea whether I wanted the bicycle or not. I, out of the goodness of my heart, lent him a bicycle that had some emotional value to me as well as physical value of getting around.
So it doesn't seem to me, I mean, have you been friends for long? It's just too bad that this bicycle is presenting a problem to you. Why don't you just replace the bicycle?
Because he didn't want the bicycle. He left it. I took care of it. I didn't neglect it. I locked it with my bike, with my roommate's bicycle. It was in my garage. All three were stolen. He didn't want it. He liked it in my garage and not in his dining room. That's why I had it for so long. He didn't want to come get it. He wouldn't let me return it. He travels a lot, so it was his schedule that was in question. I work at home. I'm always there. He neglected the bike. He gave it to me. He didn't give it to me. He loaned it to me. Asked me to keep it for him. He
loaned you the bike.
I took care of it.
Good.
I housed it.
Good.
It was stolen. It's out of my control.
Right.
He neglected the bike a year ago. He loaned it to me a year ago this month.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Yes. Well,
He moved 2 blocks away from my house when he
Doesn't make
moved
any
to West
difference,
Hollywood.
Mr. Pullman.
He could have returned it.
Mr.
And
Pullman.
also, wait, one more thing. I believe that he did neglect the bike because I lent him the bike with a kryptonite lock, and he did not use that lock. He used a chain which could be cut easily.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. Kirk Ryder says his ex-boyfriend Klaus Pullman should pay for the bicycle he borrowed because it was stolen while in his possession.
the only thing that I have to decide is on a value of this bicycle because you did not purchase it. To replace it is a problem because to replace it, what you're seeking is the full replacement value of the bike, which is, you say, $399 to replace a bike of similar quality. Is that what you indicated?
Which is actually less than the bike that was stolen is valued at.
Well, bicycles, listen to me, sir. Bicycles are not like diamonds. They don't appreciate in value.
Oh, I know that.
They depreciate in value. So if it had been bought for $500, it depreciates probably 50% in the first year that somebody has it. So then you're down to $250. That's after 1 year. So you're not going to get anywhere near what this bicycle would cost new. But you have to pay something to him, sir. You accepted it into your care. That's what we call almost a bailment. Even if he was storing it at your house and you agreed to accept it for storage, right, you have a certain responsibility towards it. You said something about this lock.
It's a standard bicycle kryptonite lock. He loaned it to me with the bicycle, but he didn't loan me the key.
So what'd you do with his lock?
The lock is with the bicycle. It stayed with the bicycle. It has a holder for it.
Okay.
Which I couldn't get off without a key.
A tire pump and also a water bottle and cage. All accessories to the bike, which added to the value.
Mr. Ryder, stop getting so excited. It's a bicycle. It's a bicycle that you didn't ride and you didn't miss for a year.
I did ride, Your Honor.
You're irritating me. Listen to me. From the time you lent it to him until March of this year, according to your own statement, you really did not make a request for this bike.
I made one request.
Wait, so evidently
no,
it wasn't
I made two.
Evidently it wasn't something that was right at the forefront, the signpost on your face. You know, it was
well,
just
I didn't
a piece.
ride it because it wasn't in my possession. I had loaned it to a friend. That's why I was not riding the bicycle.
And your friend is going to give you $150 that you can use towards purchasing a new bike. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Parties on Woods versus LaBelle. Step forward, please.
42-year-old purchasing agent Elizabeth Woods is suing her son, 19-year-old Brian LaBelle, for taking money from her bank account.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 447 on the calendar in the matter of Woods versus LaBelle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mrs. Woods, your complaint is pretty distressing.
Yes, it is.
Because you claim that your son stole your bank card, withdrew money.
Yes.
So I must assume that you've had some frustrations with him in the past to even suggest that he would do such a thing to you. And after thinking that he would do such a thing, sue him for the money. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially since, according to this, you don't have any direct proof that he took the money.
I have no direct proof, no eyewitness.
Well, why don't you tell me why you believe he took this money first?
I had the card on during the day on Christmas Eve. When I came into my house, I didn't put the card in my wallet. I set it on the counter in my kitchen. I live alone. My parents came over to visit that evening. They were the only other people in that house.
Was your son living with you or was he visiting?
No, he came over to visit while my parents were still there. The area of the kitchen countertop where I put that card is right near my cordless phone. During the visit, Brian took the cordless phone and went to the back of my mobile home. He went into the bathroom, he said, to use the phone because it was too noisy out in the living room. Shortly after the conversation on the phone, Brian put on the new winter coat that my mom and dad and I had bought him for Christmas, and he left. My other daughter, Amy, and her son came over to visit after Brian had left. So the only people in my house all day long, up until the point the card disappeared, were my parents, Brian, and myself.
Well, when did you first notice the card missing?
I had gone into my purse looking for the card a few days later, but...
So that your daughter did come over?
Yes.
Your daughter and who else?
Her son. He's 2.5.
Well, he didn't take the bank cards. But your daughter did come over?
Yes, she did.
And you didn't notice the bank card missing until after your daughter left?
Right. It was several days later.
Nobody else was in and out of your house between Christmas Day and the day that you finally discovered the bank card missing?
No one else.
How much money was withdrawn?
$470.
Now, where was the PIN number?
That took me a little time to figure out how that all happened. But several weeks before Christmas Eve, Brian was over visiting, and my other daughter was there, and the little boy again. And Brian brought up in the conversation, I think when I get my income tax check, I'm going to open a checking account. He started the conversation about PIN numbers. And does the bank assign one, or how do you do that? And my daughter blurted out what hers was in reference to it being the birthday of a relative. And I did the same.
Well, when you realized your bank card was missing, what did you do?
I thought I had left it in the house because my last memory of the bank card was setting it on that counter in the kitchen. So I went to the bank and cashed a check. Several days after that, one of my colleagues had come in to my office from one of our out-of-town locations, and I was going to take her to dinner. My daughter came to my office at my request. I wrote her out a check and said, please run to the bank and cash this check. I need money for dinner tonight. She came back from the bank as white as a ghost and said, Mom, you've got a problem. There's no money in your account. I called the bank to find out what the problem was, and they started to read me off withdrawal, $50 on Christmas Eve, $20 on December 29th.
Do you have a listing of those?
Yes, I do.
Let me take a look at it. And in total, it was $470?
Yes, plus accumulated bank fees.
Brian, how old are you?
19.
How long haven't you been living at home?
I lived there on and off. I've probably been out of there 3 years.
You know anything about this bank card?
No, I don't. The first I heard about it was after I had moved out of state. And it wasn't told directly to me, it was told to my sister. She told me about it, and the first thing I heard about it after that was being called, telling me that there was a lawsuit against me.
Is this the other daughter that you were talking about?
No, this is my oldest daughter. She lives in Louisiana.
Would you tell your mother if you took the bank card?
If I had taken it, yes, I would have told her. I didn't take the card. I had no reason to take it. As far as the conversation with the PIN numbers and anything, I don't recall any of that.
Where's your younger daughter?
She's at home. I didn't think her testimony was going to be at all pertinent because she really didn't eyewitness anything.
All right, so my next question, Mrs. Woods, is, now I understand your lawsuit. My question to you is, what do you hope to accomplish from this lawsuit?
I want him to own up to his responsibility. I want him to understand that living off of other people or lying to people or stealing from people is not the way to live your life. And if you've done something wrong, be a man. Stand up for it. Take the responsibility and accept the consequences.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It hurts that I would be accused of stealing the card. I did not take the card. I have no use for your money.
And later today,
she had expressed the desire to have breast implants done. I loved her the way she was. She didn't have to do that for me.
He wanted this as much as I did. Why should I pay him back?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Elizabeth Woods says her son, Brian LaBelle, stole her bank card and tricked her into giving him the PIN code.
Who do you think took her bank card and had her PIN number?
I really have no idea.
Well, it was you or your sister. That's what it comes down to, right?
Okay, well,
Unless it was your grandparents. I'm going to eliminate the grandparents. But the truth of the matter is, Miss Woods, it could have been either Brian or his sister, because both of them were in your house prior to the time that you found the bank card missing. You choose to believe, for whatever reason, that Brian was the one who took it because of his history, lifestyle, whatever, his need for money.
I also believe that he took it because of his spending shortly before he left for Louisiana, he left for Louisiana on the 3rd of January, which was the exact day that $250 was withdrawn from my checking account. I have been told by Brian's friends, and you know, whether it's admissible or not.
It isn't.
Okay.
That he spent a lot of money.
Not a lot of money, but for someone who isn't working, was evicted from his apartment for non-payment of rent, had his car impounded by the city, you know, $10 is a lot of money.
Brian, you're 19. That's not entirely cooked and ready for adult life, but it seems to me you're living on your own. What do you want to do with yourself?
Did
you graduate from high school?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I had a lot of problems in school.
What kind of problems?
I lost a lot of interest. I mean, it happens sometimes. I had problems with other kids in school. I had problems with teachers in school. And my mistake was I left school. I didn't go back.
So what do you want to do with yourself?
You know, I've been keeping myself straight other than this, and, you know, I've worked for what I have. I don't have much.
That's not an answer to my question, Brian. It's really not an answer to my question. You're 19 years old, you have no education, but you're living on your own. Now, you can flounder through life, but you look like an intelligent, and you sound like you're an intelligent young man who's going nowhere. I think probably that's your mother's frustration. You know, that she's just sad because you seem to be without direction. You are without direction, you know. I mean, just living hand to mouth, you know, getting a job, getting a meaningless job when you're 19 and sticking with it means that you're going to spend 40 years of your life or more doing something that you're not particularly fond of. You won't make a living. You know, you sort of aimlessly wander through life. What do you want to do?
I like to be able to afford everything I need. I like the line of work I do. When I do...
What kind of work do you do?
I worked as a construction laborer and a laborer in a pallet yard.
But you don't do it all the time?
No.
Why not?
I was laid off from my last job due to transportation problems. I missed a lot of work. I was in the process of buying a car because the car I was driving at the time wasn't reliable. Like I said, I missed a lot of time off of work from that, and they saw it as not needing me around because they wanted somebody who was going to be there all the time. Other than that, you know, I mean, I've held a job pretty well.
Brian, either you took this card or your sister took it. So you think your sister took it?
I know I didn't take it. I don't want to accuse her of taking it because I know there are other people in and out of her house, whether she says there are or not.
People could have taken the card, but nobody else had the PIN number, which would have given them access to the money.
I didn't have the PIN number either.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I still love you. I want you to get your act together. You can't go through life like this.
And later today,
After this motorcycle rally, she had expressed the desire to have breast implants done because there's a lot of skin that's shown up there in Sturgis.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Elizabeth Woods says her son, Brian LaBelle, stole her bank card and tricked her into giving him the PIN code.
Mrs. Woods, as I said to you when we started, it's a sad situation when a parent brings a child to court, sues a child, especially a 19-year-old child, because they're hardly cooked. I mean, whatever frustrations you've had with him, and I assume even based upon what he says, you've had some frustrations with him for a long time. But this is still a court, and a court has to deal with evidence and proof. Right now, we have a situation where your credit card was missing, but there were at least 4 people who were in your home who had access to that card when you left it on the kitchen counter. You had your parents, you had Brian, and you had your younger daughter. And but for the fact that he's perhaps spent a couple of dollars during the Christmas holiday, there really is no proof that Brian, as opposed to the other people who had access to that card and access to your home, were the ones who took it. So a court can't operate under supposition. That is unfair. You understand that? So I am forced to dismiss your lawsuit against your son. Brian, I don't know whether you took this card or not. There is insufficient proof that you did. But you look like a nice young person. And you certainly are intelligent. I don't think that you are optimally using all the gifts that God gave you. Do you?
No.
So you better start, because as I said to you before, life is not a dress rehearsal. You only go around once. Okay? That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back, go to your right.
I am very disappointed. I still love my son very much.
It hurts that I would be accused of stealing the card. I did not take the card. I have no use for your money. If this is the way that you feel about me, then fine, that be it.
I still love you. I want you to get your act together. You can't go through life like this. You got away with it this time, but the next time you might not be so lucky.
There was nothing to get away with.
And now the next case.
Parties on Donahue versus Pratt. Step forward, please.
38-year-old police officer Mark Donahue is suing his ex-girlfriend, exotic dancer Cynthia Pratt, 30, for not repaying a loan for her breast implants.
Mr. Donahue, according to your complaint, sir, you made a loan to the defendant in order for her to have breast augmentation surgery. You gave her $2,350.
Yes, Your Honor.
You broke up, she won't pay you back.
That's correct.
Okay, so why don't you tell me how this loan came about, sir?
Well, Cindy and I started dating in January 1996 and up until November 1997. In August of 1996, we went to Sturgis, South Dakota. It's a motorcycle rally annual event that happens there. And after this motorcycle rally, she had expressed the desire to have breast implants done because there's a lot of skin that's shown up there in Sturgis.
We talked about it before.
So we had discussed it up until, well, the beginning of 1997. She decided that she was going to go ahead and go through with it, and she had told me that she was not going to go to Sturgis in 1997, that the following August, if she didn't have it done. She made an appointment for the surgery. The date was set. She was working at the time, and she had the funding arranged. She was working for a mortgage company and had several loans that she was going to close, so she had the funding arranged for it. And I had been telling her all along that, you know, don't do this for me, do it for yourself. If, you know, I loved her the way she was. So the day of the surgery came, and she had not had the funding because her loans had fallen through that she was going to close. But we had talked about me loaning her the money, and that I would only be able to loan her half the money, and she would be able to provide the other half. So we went to my credit union, and I withdrew $2,350 to make up for the in addition to the $1,650 that she had.
So she had enough?
$4,000, yes.
Okay.
And so after I withdrew the checks, I had her sign a promissory note that was notarized at the credit union.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Surgery was done. You broke up several months later.
Yes.
Were any payments made whatsoever within the 2 months that this promissory note indicates the balance was to be fully paid?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes, there was.
She had made reference that periodically she would say, well, I need to pay you back. I know I owe you that money, but I don't have it. But I never saw a dime of it. I've not seen one cent of that
Marcus, you
money.
did.
Miss Pratt, don't talk to him. Are you finished now, sir?
Yes.
Good. I'll hear you.
My very first check that I had got with my first loan that closed, I did sign it over.
Don't talk to him.
I signed it over to him.
And how much was that for?
I don't even remember. It was a long time ago. I don't even remember.
Your Honor,
It
she
was-
never...
Shh. You would know if you gave him any money. This wasn't so long ago. It was less than a year ago.
Correct, but I did sign over a check to him. I believe it was only a couple $100. I really don't remember how much the amount was.
All right, so assuming that that's true, assuming that you got a check and you signed it over to him for a couple of $100. This note says that it's to be paid within 2 months. Now, I read your answer. I don't know what your defense is. You want to tell me what your defense is?
Mark knew that I wasn't going to be able to pay him back. After my job had changed and my commission had turned into a salary, he knew that I couldn't afford it. I was stressing on by just making ends meet. And I told Mark, I said, you know, I'm never going to be able to pay you back. And he said, I know. And it never came up again. We never discussed it. Nothing. It was never brought up again of me paying him back. So I just assumed that I didn't need to pay him back. Why should I pay him back? He knew that he wanted this as much as I did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have to decide what your theory of defense is, Miss Pratt. Okay? Theory of defense. Does that ring a note to you?
Mm-hmm.
Either you owed him the money because you agreed that it was a loan, or you don't owe him the money because he wanted you to have the surgery as much as you did, and it was a gift. Now, which is your theory of defense?
I'd say it was a gift. I never asked for the money.
Okay, that's your theory. So your theory of defense, I just want to understand this. And Bird wants to understand this.
I do.
Your theory of defense is that it's a gift. Is that right?
Yeah.
You picked the wrong one. Because if your theory of defense is, madam, that it's a gift, then you don't sign a promissory note. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,350. That's all.
Thank you,
Sir,
Your Honor.
excuse you may step out. Number 551 on the calendar in the matter of Entreri versus Woodcock. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Mr. Woodcock, you're a real estate broker, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Miss Centreri, you reside in an apartment in a building that's going to be sold.
Was
sold.
No, was going to be.
Was going to be sold. And according to your complaint, you're home one day, ill from work.
No, I'm disabled, actually.
You were home?
Yes, I was.
And the defendant broke into your apartment?
That's correct.
I didn't break into nobody's apartment.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
That I said according to her complaint,
Right.
Mr. Woodcock.
Okay,
That's
that's
what
fine.
happened. You're going to tell me your version of the events, sir. So since you knew that this building was going to be sold, I assume that you had made arrangements with regard to showing your apartment, correct?
Yes, in the past it was done regularly.
Tell me
several
about
times.
the procedure.
The procedure was, it was multiple listings, and the realtor would telephone, send notice by mail, and speak with my husband in general, make arrangements for a specific day and time that was convenient for both of us, and we would make our home available for showing.
And during what period of time, Ms. Intreri, did you show your apartment?
This was over a period of probably about 4 months.
And how many times did you actually make yourself available to show the apartment?
I know of at least 4 times that individuals came in and viewed the flat.
Now, when did this occur, this instance with Mr. Woodcock?
Well, on May 13th, I was home. I suffer from severe arthritis from an auto accident, and I was home convalescing. It was in the afternoon. I was home in my bedclothes, and the doorbell rang. Well, I wasn't expecting company. I live in the Haight-Ashbury district, and unless you're expecting someone, basically you don't answer your door. For that reason, we have a gate in the front of our building, as most
Mr.
people
Woodcock,
do.
you may want to listen to this, sir.
As most people do in the neighborhood. About 5-10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again, except it rang urgently. And so I got up, I went to my window. We live in a Victorian flat, so this is quite a distance from the back to the front. And I look out the window, I see no one I recognize, and I see...
How many people did you see?
I saw 2 people.
Okay.
And an old vehicle. And again, I did not answer because I don't know who this is. I'm home alone. Thereafter, I hear what appears to be someone dismantling my front door. And shaken, upset, I phone 911. And I speak with the 911 operator, tell her that it sounds like someone is breaking into my home. And she holds me on the line, and it gets to the point where it sounds like someone's kicking the door in. By this time, I am shaking like a leaf, trying to figure out, should I run? Should I try to defend myself? What exactly to do? Thereafter, the 911 operator informs me that it is safe to go downstairs. We have about 30 stairs, and because the police had arrived. When I get downstairs, again in my bedclothes, I find the police along with Mr. Woodcock, who I didn't know from Adam at the time, because my husband generally would show the house.
Okay, you didn't know him. The police were there.
And Mr. Woodcock asked me boldly, why didn't you open your door?
Right.
Shh, shh.
I ignore him because this is just ridiculous. I'm actually irate.
Describe your front door.
I have pictures, Your Honor.
Can I see it, please?
And this is what was broken into. First the gate, then the door, then the chain was kicked off.
No, that's not. No, wait a minute. Now,
And
stop.
that's
I've had enough of
the
this. Wait a minute.
piece- Hey,
listen,
No. Wait a second, please.
Hey.
Don't. Hey.
No,
Jay!
Okay, all right. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Your Honor, I wasn't even positive that they had completely entered until I found that piece of chain that was part of the, chain on the floor.
Okay. And that's what happened that day, correct?
That's what happened, except that it left me shaking, like a leaf, crying. I had to call my physician for medication to calm down. it went downhill after that into ulcers because he continued to harass myself and my family.
Okay. Now, my question to you is, had either you or your husband received notice in writing that someone was going to be showing your apartment on May 13th?
I'm glad you asked me that question. We received notice for the 14th.
Can I see it, please?
The following day.
Can I see it, please?
No one showed up on that day.
So to answer my question, madam, you received no notice that someone was going to be there the 13th. The notice that you received, which is dated May 12th, indicates that someone would be there on Wednesday, May 14th.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to step in because we had an arrangement because it was
Who are
kind of
you?
rough. I'm Mrs. Intrury's husband.
Okay.
We had an arrangement with the realty company because it kind of got off to a shaky start, showing the property, and so we had an arrangement. They would call, and they would let us know.
What you're telling me is not necessarily important to this right
in
now.
advance.
Sure. Shh, shh, shh.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Sure.
Your wife was very articulate. She explained that to me.
Okay.
She said they would call and write.
Okay.
Got to pay attention to your wife.
All right.
They're
You
usually
shouldn't-
very smart, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Miss Intreri.
And my husband
Miss
knows.
Intreri, I'm very smart. They don't keep me here because I'm gorgeous.
And I'm not saying it ruins you.
I'm very smart.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Intrieri is suing real estate agent Paul Woodcock for breaking into her home unannounced, leaving her frightened and in tears.
Now I'll hear you, Mr. Woodcock.
I didn't think it ever was going to come.
Sir, let me explain something to you. Have I been respectful to you?
Yes?
I will continue to be respectful to
Well-
you. You have to know where you are. Now, let's start over again. Like you just came in and like I don't know who you are. Would you like Mr. Woodcock to tell me your version of the events?
Yes.
Good.
I have documentation for everything.
Just tell me.
Well, I had an appointment set for the date that we came out to the building.
Okay, let me stop you there. How did you set up that appointment, sir?
I had my secretary call over there, and then I also had it sent
That's a
over
lie.
by letter, by mail. And I
Just
have
a second.
Yes.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
see your letter by mail.
All right. Here. I had several. Yeah, these right here are fine. There's like 5 or 6 of them right in here. Oh, this is.
They had not called, and we did not
If
receive that letter.
if you shout out again, I'm going to put you outside. Do you understand? Is it? Well, let me explain something to you, sir. Let me stop you right there. There is a letter dated May 12th, which is clearly under your signature, and it indicates that the property would be inspected on May 14th. Okay, that is a letter dated May 12th.
Right.
Now, there is a prior letter dated May the 6th,
Right.
where you indicate that the property would be shown on Tuesday,
Right.
May 13th. But the subsequent letter of May 12th indicates a day later, Wednesday, May 14th. Okay. And I have the original with your original signature, a copy of which is contained in your file. Okay, so what happened when you got there, sir?
Well, when I got there, the tenants downstairs allowed myself and the contractor and the appraiser and the lender in. And the thing is that what happened was I rang Mrs. Intreri's bell several times, knocked on the door several times, could not get in, and she didn't answer. And so after that happened, I called the attorney that was handling the estate for the seller. And I said to her, I says, I need to get into the building. I had this set up, and if you can really, has letters in there regarding this as well. So I had my associate with here, Mr. Gallen, and I used his cell phone to call, who then instructed me, because I had everyone out there, It wasn't like it wasn't planned in advance.
It wasn't planned in
I mean,
advance?
it wasn't planned. You know.
Just a second, sir.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned with her.
Well,
Mr. Woodcock, it wasn't planned with her.
well, I don't know how she cannot say that, but I mean, I had my secretary write the letter. I have the correspondence inside there.
Sir, it's right here. This is your secretary. This is your signature.
Right.
It said that you would be there on Wednesday,
Right.
May 14th. You arrived a day early.
No, well,
And Your Honor.
Shut!
yeah, all right, forget about it.
No, Mr. Woodcock,
No,
you
I mean-
arrived a day early, sir.
Well, if I remember correctly, what had happened is I called the attorney. The attorney got a hold of Miss Intreri here, and to set the appointment. I'm just trying to recollect exactly what transpired in between.
You can't tell me what transpired between the attorney, sir, and the plaintiff, or between the attorney and yourself, because that's hearsay, Mr. Woodcock.
All right.
But what I'm telling you is that your last communication to the plaintiff, which was dated May the 12th, indicated that you would be there on the 14th, which is Wednesday, for an inspection. Now, you arrived on the 13th for an inspection, and so you told me you got there. The people downstairs allowed you to come in.
Right.
You went upstairs. You rang the bell.
No, I didn't go upstairs because I couldn't go upstairs. I rang the bell to go upstairs.
Yes.
And the thing is that when I could not get in, I used Mike's cell phone, called the attorney.
But not to call
No,
me.
Excuse me. I mean,
hey, listen. You have to be quiet.
Okay, but he could have called me.
Hey!
Okay.
He's speaking.
I mean,
it's his turn.
Yeah.
He can have it.
Miss Intreri, don't irritate me.
Okay.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
But it is a situation that you don't know how it's going to affect you until it happens.
Of course.
That's how I would have felt.
Of course.
prior
I
to it
understand
happening.
that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Stephanie Intrieri wants $5,000 from real estate agent Paul Woodcock for breaking into her home. He says he had an appointment.
You used a cell phone without telling me what the conversation was with this other person that you dealt with, because that's hearsay. What did you do after you got off the cell phone?
After I got off the cell phone, I called the locksmith.
And you had the locksmith come over to the house.
Correct.
And the locksmith did what?
Picked the locks.
Okay. How many locks did the locksmith pick?
2.
Okay.
I believe it was 2. The front gate. No, wait a minute. I think we're already inside. It was her locks. Are the ones that we started to pick. Or he started to pick, because I'm not a locksmith.
And then the police arrived.
Then the police arrived.
Okay. Now, how long had you been the real estate agent for this property?
Oh, I don't know. 45 days, I guess.
Okay. So, my question is, how many units are in this whole complex? 2 units. And in the 45 days that you were the realtor, did you at any time go out to inspect the plaintiff's apartment?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I believe once I was actually able to get in.
And were you the first realtor that was attached to this property, or had there been one prior to you?
To my knowledge, no. I was the only one.
Excuse me, Your Honor, there actually were others because it was multiple listings initially.
Did you have an exclusive on this
Yes.
property? For how long?
90 days.
90 days starting when?
It's in the file. You have the file, Judge.
Can I see what you
This
have?
is another real estate company who was involved in the sale of the property, not Mason McDuffie, as Ms.
Shh. There was a prior realty company, sir, with regard to the same property. Okay, so that's the case. It's not a very difficult case.
Your Honor, if I may add.
About what?
About what happened to me after this incident because I do feel that it's relevant.
You told me that you were stressed. You told me that you had ulcers. You told me that you had
And
that you were sick.
I didn't mention I had insomnia. We went on vacation. I'm getting up all in the middle of the night wherever I went, checking the locks in the middle of the night.
Miss Intreri.
And I never
Miss
had
Intreri.
ulcers before. I just
Miss
wanted
Intreri,
to
I can't tell you without expert testimony, which
do
I
have.
assume you do not have.
I do, from my physician.
I don't take letters from physicians.
It's his notes.
Did you hear what I just said? I do not take letters, notes from physicians unless I can actually examine them as to whether your ulcer was caused by this incident. Do you understand?
He specifically mentions the incident. And
Okay, whether he specifically mentions the incident, you specifically mentioned the incident.
Okay, and he can be telephoned.
Listen to me, madam. I sometimes get off the bench and go to the phone and make a phone call. Not in this case. I understand exactly what happened. You were in your bedroom. You were not expecting these people, clearly based upon this. You had no reason to expect anyone there that day. You were frightened out of your wits for a while. It lasted a relatively short period of time until the police arrived, but during that 5 to 10 or 15 minutes that it was going on, you were scared to death. I understand that. Don't tell me that it clouded your entire life for the remainder of your entire life, because that's a lot of baloney. That's a lot of, because at the moment, once it was over, it's like, you know, being in a terrible accident, you know? You're frightened and it's terrible, but if you're a smart person and are not using it to milk a system, then you say, I'm going to put a period. I understand what it was. It was somebody who was doing the wrong thing. They were not trying to burglarize my home, right? He did the wrong thing. Miss Intreri.
But it is a situation that you don't know how it's going to affect you until it happens.
Of course.
That's how I would have felt.
Of course. I understand that. Miss Intreri.
And my husband
Miss
knows.
Intreri, I'm very smart. They don't keep me here because I'm gorgeous.
And I'm not saying it ruins you.
I'm very smart.
I'm not saying
I'm very smart. You can be as serious as you like. I understand. I understand
But
that
it was very traumatic, particularly when you have other injuries
I
already.
understand, madam, that it was very traumatic. For that 15 minutes, it was traumatic.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
He could stand there and he can shake his head, no, no, no. But truth of the matter is, whether his secretary screwed up in sending this letter and got her dates wrong, or whether the appointment was changed by him, I am not satisfied that you received adequate notice. And he had absolutely no right, even, quite frankly, if you had been notified and if you weren't there, you paid rent on the apartment, he has no right to break into your apartment. And if he's relying on some conversation that he had with a lawyer, let him go sue the lawyer, because he's going to pay you $3,000. Judge